Good morning and welcome back to the Daily Bible Chapter Bible Reading Series. Today is February the 18th of 2022, and we are reading Numbers chapter 24. And we're reading from the New King James Version. And Numbers chapter 24 talks about Balaam foretelling the happiness of Israel. So, let's get into it. Now when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he did not go as at other times to seek to use sorcery, but he set his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam raised his eyes and saw Israel encamped according to their tribes, and the Spirit of God came upon him. Then he took up his oracle and said, The utterance of Balaam the son of Beor, the utterance of the man whose eyes are opened, the utterance of him who hears the words of God, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down with eyes wide open. How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel, like valleys that stretch out, like gardens by the riverside, like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars beside the waters. He shall pour water from his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. His king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brings him out of Egypt. He has strength like a wild ox. He shall consume the nations, his enemies. He shall break their bones, and pierce them with his arrows. He bows down. He lies down as a lion, and as a lion who shall rouse him? Blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you. Then Balak's anger was aroused against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. And Balak said to Balaam, I called you to curse my enemies, and look, you have bountifully blessed them these 3 times. Now therefore flee to your place. I said I would greatly honor you, but in fact the Lord has kept you back from honor. So Balaam said to Balak, Do I not also speak to your messengers, whom you sent to me, saying, If Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not go beyond the word of the Lord, to do good or bad of my own will. What the Lord says, that I must speak. And now, indeed, I am going to my people. Come, I will advise you what this people will do to your people in the latter days. So he took up his oracle and said, The utterance of Balaam the son of Beor, and the utterance of the man whose eyes are opened, the utterance of him who hears the words of God, and has the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down with eyes wide open. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and batter the brow of Moab, and destroy all the sons of tumult. And Edom shall be a possession, Seir also his enemies shall be a possession, while Israel does valiantly. Out of Jacob one shall have dominion, and destroy the remains of the city. Then he looked on Amalek, and he took up his oracle, and said, Amalek was first among the nations, but shall be last until he perishes. Then he looked on the Kenites, and he took up his oracle and said, Firm is your dwelling place, and your nest is set in the rock. Nevertheless, Cain shall be burned. How long until Asher carries you away captive? Then he took up his oracle and said, Alas, who shall live when God does this? But ships shall come from the coast of Cyprus, and they shall afflict Asher and afflict Eber, and so shall Amalek until he perishes. So Balaam rose and departed and returned to his place. Balak also went his way. Numbers 24. I was sitting here thinking, I've been in church my whole entire life, and up until the last few days, I don't know that I ever recall this story of Balaam and Balak, and it's 2 or 3 chapters here. Granted, most of the churches I've been in don't spend a lot of time in Numbers. It's not a chapter that comes up a lot for, daily teaching, but it just makes me think, this isn't necessarily a biblical message per se, but it makes me wonder how much of the Bible I have missed by not reading it every day and not being in the Word consistently. You know, I mean, I've missed, let me see, so Numbers 22, Numbers 23, Numbers 24, that's 3 chapters of the Bible, all about this man Balaam, who's, foretelling greatness, and he's talking to the Lord, and I don't know that I've ever heard his name before until we began to read it today. I mean, I've read through the Bible before, so clearly I've had it, but I've never stopped to pay attention. So it just makes me wonder, how much of the Bible have I missed? Even reading it, how much of it am I missing? Because my mind goes elsewhere, or I'm thinking about something else, How much am I missing it because for so long I just relied on what I would hear in church, And I guess my thought to that is, if we want a real relationship, we have to spend time with somebody. And in order to spend time with Jesus and God, you have to spend time in the Word. And, even though I've read through the Bible probably 2 to 3 times now, this is all still new to me, and it shouldn't be. And to me, that it just kind of makes my heart hurt a little bit that I'm figuring out this story here for the first time, even though I grew up in the church and have read the Bible through multiple times. This is still new to me. So anyway, this is something to think about. If you want a real relationship, you got to spend time in the Word and think about what it's telling you. So anyway, that's Numbers chapter 24, and I hope you'll join me tomorrow for Numbers 25.